When we're young, we have an amazing, positive outlook about how great life is going to be, but somewhere along the line, we forget to dream and end up settling. Join Up Dots features amazing people who refuse to give up and chose to go after their dreams. This is your blueprint for greatness. So here's your host, live from the back of his garden in the UK, David Ralph.
Yes, hello there, everybody. Hello there. It's nearly June, and I'm looking out of my window, and it's pouring with rain. It is cloudy. It is dark. It is horrible. And the wife is saying, "Can't we put the heating on?" It's nearly June. It's nearly June. If you're having this battle with your wife, wherever you are across the planet, about the heating at this moment, let me know so that I can form a support group for all of us men as we push through to keep the bills down. Anyway. I don't know why I'm ranting about that. Let's bring on today's episode and today's guest, who is a man with a personal motto that if you don't understand it as a business owner, then you should. He believes that measure, motivate and manage. He has extensive working knowledge regarding all aspects of operating a successful in-home service business, including but not limited to sales and marketing, recruitment, systematising and human resources. He's helped numerous business owners revitalise their companies and become true business owners, not just operators. And this is the key element to it all. Why is it that so many people create a business that actually runs them instead of the other way around? You don't set off on a path that you hope will lead to longer hours, more stress and headache after headache. It's all about walking on beaches, relaxing with friends and living the dream. And today's guest is most certainly living the dream now, but that wasn't always the case. He's been where you are, working long hours with his life, supporting his business, unable to step away from the day-to-day operations for fear of it disappearing in front of him. So how has he managed to switch off the life support system and see the business breathe and flourish without him? And are there common issues that people all have to go through to achieve the success they want? Well, let's find out as we bring on the show to start joining up dots with the one and only Mr Justin Deese. Good morning, Justin. How are you, sir?
Awesome. Good morning, David.
How are you in your land? Are you battling with your special partner about the heating?
Well, not at the moment. Actually, my family and I have been on an RV trip for a number of months now, and we're currently in the Northeast. We're in Pennsylvania, and 2 or 3 days ago it was 40 degrees, and then today it's 90 degrees. So, no battle yet as of today.
And
who knows? It's still early.
I don't imagine the Amish often battle about the heating and stuff, do you?
That's funny. We're in Amish country is where we are right now. We went and hung out yesterday in an Amish farm. So it's an interesting tie in there.
Yeah, no, I have driven through that area many times, all the way around that area, and it has a simplistic way of living, which actually is a kind of it's a big metaphor for what we're doing in Join Up Dots, getting people to strip back and realise that they don't need the bells and whistles of everything. And probably one of the quickest ways of growing a business is actually stripping it down and making it lean. The Amish could be the way forward. What do you think?
I heard an interesting fact yesterday that their population every 20 years is doubling. So I think the faster the world gets, sometimes people are very drawn to a very simple, slower life. So yeah, and there's a lot you can learn in business from their culture, right?
Yeah,
Keep it simple, make it easy.
But to be honest, Justin, if I was an Amish and there's nothing on TV each night, I think I would be doubling the population. There's not a lot to do, is there?
Nope, just farming. Farming and eating. So yeah.
Yeah, nothing else. Just this is a family show. It's farming and eating all the way. So let's talk about your business. Let's start back in the day, because you have been on the journey. You're at a point now where you are enjoying yourself, the ability to go on these RV trips, which is kind of the dream. You can separate yourself from the business, but it wasn't always the case. So when did it become its worst for you to reassess what you were doing?
It was probably about, I would say 6 or 7 years ago. I really got to a point where I didn't like my business. I didn't like my team members. My health was terrible. It was kind of a culmination of all that to where, you get to the point where you're like, I would rather do anything but this right here, what I'm doing right now. And, I thankfully had a really good business coach who who challenged me to do things like, creative vision. What do you want it to look for? Because a lot of times what people do in a business is they get in this entrepreneurial myth and they just kind of end up being wandering. They wander as an entrepreneur and as a business leader, and they don't stay focused on what it is their goals are.
Yeah.
In order to achieve.
And did you not have that? You didn't have a mentor at the beginning. You just basically did what I suppose 95% of people do. They set off on this belief that the more effort you put into something, the easier you are going to achieve your goals.
Well, 100%. And just the technician inside most of us says that, hey, if there's a problem, you can just outwork it. And the problem is, as you scale and grow a business, there's still only so many hours in a day. Even though you're willing to put in 100, 120 hours a week, at the end of the day, mentally, your brain is only going to be able to be productive at so many hours. So, it's hard to outwork a business, and it's hard to outwork problems. It's much easier to systematize it and just make it easier.
It's strange, though, isn't it? Because I've been in the corporate world for, most of my life, and now I'm in the entrepreneurial world. And in corporate world, you hear all the time, I'm not doing that, that's slave labor. But in entrepreneurial land, especially at the beginning, you are working hour upon hour upon hour, and probably for minimum wage, or more often than not for nothing. Nobody screams, this is slave labor. But nobody also screams, there's got to be a better way of doing this. They just plow into it. And I've seen literally every guest that has come on the show talks about moments of burnout, which I don't think you have in corporate land. You work really hard, but you just kind of leave it behind somehow. It's not the same, is it?
Well, it's not, because in corporate land, even however many hours you work, typically you have X amount of weeks of vacation to where you have permission to turn your phone, your device, or whatever communication off to kind of defrag. And part of the challenge of running a business is you 100% don't get that. Your team becomes needy when you're on vacation, or you can't turn your phone off because you're terrified the entire place is going to burn down.
So let's talk about you at the moment, and then in classic Join Up Dots fashion, we're going to jump back and forth. So you're driving around in your RV. Are you totally switched off, or have you got a laptop in front of the steering wheel and mobile devices all around you? Are you connected, or are you just literally allowing the business to operate without you?
Well, I own several businesses. So my actual service businesses, I have management teams in place, and I do meet with them on a monthly basis, and some of them on a biweekly basis too. But most of what I spend my time now doing is coaching and training, which is kind of how we started on the RV trip. Is we kind of left and went, okay, well, great, we've got these stops, and so we've kind of mapped our way around the country, just stopping and coaching and training. So no, as far as my service businesses, I'm pretty well hands off. But with the coaching business and the Blue Collar Success Group, I'm involved in it on a day-to-day basis, and it's really bizarre because it's not work. It's something that I'm truly passionate about doing, and it's a lot of fun.
It's interesting, isn't it, when you get to that point where it isn't work, but it is work. You work harder on it, but you don't. It's that hybrid of hobby and passion and employment. It's hard to actually pinpoint what it is. I'm like that with Join Up Dots and this podcast. When I started it, I grew it like a madman. Now I do a lot less on it, but when I do it, I absolutely adore it. And people say to me, don't you ever get fed up with it? Don't you ever want to do something else? No, I just love doing this. And I'm fascinated to see where it's going to take me. So with the support group, let's talk about that. This is an online support group. Do you have to have sort of virtual connectivity, or can you meet up with the people? How does this operate?
So no, we have a couple of different ways that we coach and train and mentor. We do some on site, so we go to people's shops and offices, and we do training with their office team, with their technicians, and we do some stuff online. We do some one-on-one coaching. So we have a variety of different ways that we connect with clients to help.
And what do you help them with then? So we've got listeners out there, and they've got a business that is in their head, in planning stage, would they come to you, or do they need to actually have a business that they're sitting there going, I hate this now, and you can separate them from the hassles?
Well, the easiest time to get clear on what you want is at the beginning, not at the end. So the challenge is most of the time when people reach out, it's normally when they're already 10 employees. You know what I mean? They're really large to where shifting is a little bit of a challenge. However, if you're in the beginning stages of a business, that's really the best time to sit down and get clear on what it is you're looking for. What is it that you want out of your business? Because as entrepreneurs, a lot of times we have a high threshold for junk and crap. So the clearer you get on that, and the earlier you get on it, the easier it is to grow and love what you do.
Yeah, but people don't know that at the beginning, Justin, do they? They know that they don't like what they're doing. And that's, I used to do a lot more coaching in certain areas, but I don't do it as much now. But one of the things that we used to talk about is drilling down on your perfect day so that you knew exactly what you was aiming for. But when you get far enough away from that, you realize that first perfect day that you create is a direct opposite of the things that you hate. And you get 6 months or a year into the journey and you start to think, actually, I'm living this perfect day, but it's not as good as I thought it was going to be. It's just different from what I was doing before. It lacks clarity at the beginning. Is that the way that it should be? Should people have a plan? Is it better to be more fluid where they're thinking? Should they just go with the flow?
Well, vision is one of the things that I really speak about and in front of groups and things, probably more than anything else. And it's because really with vision comes clarity. And when you have that vision, it makes everything so much easier. It makes decisions easier. It makes the direction that you're going to go easier. And then it gives you that ability to adapt. A lot of times people go, well, I wrote down my vision. It can't ever change. And the truth is when you're writing down a vision, it's a living, breathing document. So it holds you accountable to your business, to your team, and really more importantly, to yourself. Because then when you have those big opportunities, you sit down and you go, okay, does this get me towards my vision or does it get me away from my vision? And at that point, you have to make the decision, do I adjust my vision or do I stay true to it?
So what was influencing you in the early days? Was it money? Now it seems a lot it's to do with freedom and the ability to have choices in your life. But at the beginning, was it just to pay bills? Did the business form when you was a young man before responsibilities and kids and mortgages all sort of take over you?
Yeah. So I started when I was young. I was in my early 20s, and there wasn't a lot of responsibility. And I've always kind of had the mindset of, you know what, if it all falls apart, I can rebuild. Yeah. So it's one of those things where, and even now, I still have a little bit of that mentality of, you know what, I'm going to go 100%. And if it doesn't make it, I'm not going to allow fear to drive me in my decisions or my business. But yeah, I didn't have kids. I wasn't married. So there was a lot of that. There's a lot less responsibility than what I have now, for sure.
Because I was 40, how old was I? I can't remember now. 44 when I decided to quit my job, and people thought I was mad. But it'd been bubbling under the surface probably since I was 16, if I was honest, thinking to myself, this isn't for me. I shouldn't be here. I should be doing amazing stuff. I should be the lead singer of Duran Duran. That's what I should be doing. And it was always something exciting. But I kind of just kept on pushing away until that bubble got so big that I had to go for it. So is it a problem? Because I would say to everyone nowadays, even if you've got responsibilities, even if you've got mortgages, even if you've got the world's book of excuses, you can basically scribble them all out if you want it enough and go for it. What would you say?
I mean, here's the deal. You live one time. And every day that you waste, it's just that it's wasted time. And the truth is a lot of business owners, we tell ourselves we do this for our family, and then we go work 100, 120 hours a week, and we never have time to spend with our family. And when we're there, we're disconnected from them. And the truth is if you find something that you're passionate about doing, you're going to be serving not only yourself, but your family better anyways.
And your vision for world domination, we can hear it, Justin. You want to take over the world and have multiple strings all over the place, which is kind of great. Is it all focused on service industries? Is it small businesses? Is it any business that operates?
Most of my focus is in-home service businesses. And a lot of it is because I went through that journey of that 0 to 1 employee, 2 employee, 10 employee, 100 employees. So I have a passion for that business because I've been there. So what's exciting is for me is to be able to help people that were in the spot that I remember being in, that almost I give up stage, and being able to help them kind of push through and help them get 1% better a day, right? Or even a week, get 1% better each week. And gosh, by the end of the year, man, your business, your life, your health, it all looks so much different.
And it is incremental gains, isn't it? That's the thing that people can't see. And I suppose it's an amazing metaphor for join up dots, that it's the step after the step after the step, that when you look back, you go, wow, the progress. Because when you're in it and you're fighting your way through, you don't assess all the successes you've had. You just look at what needs to be done, don't you?
Well, and it's easy to do. It's easy to measure failures and see where, man, if I'd have done this differently or had done that differently versus, man, you know what? Had I stayed on focus and kept that win column, you ultimately feel better about what you're doing. So yeah.
Now, you've obviously been in situations where you've been laying on the floor, kicking your legs, going, why me? Why did this have to happen? I put so much work into it. Nobody can escape those moments. What ones sort of jump out when you think back over your career? Now you're rocking and rolling, you're doing things on your terms, but we all go on a roller coaster, don't we?
Yeah, for me, I had a hard time saying no, as many entrepreneurs do. Is opportunity would come up and just almost like a knee-jerk reaction, I go, yes.
Yeah.
Not even thinking about how it affects. So that was one of my biggest challenges is what to say no to and the clarity of what to say yes to.
And so how do you gain that? Is it just overwhelm? You suddenly look, because somebody like Richard Branson, for example, says, screw it, let's do it. And he almost says, every opportunity is a business that needs to be looked into. But it is true that I always say the no's lead to super yeses. And if you can go, no, oh my God, that's what I want to do, then you've got the space in your life to do it. Now, you were saying yes to everything. So what made you change direction?
The big thing for me was once I finally sat down and got honest about what I wanted from my business and how I wanted it to serve me as well as my family, it helped kind of get me guided. And one of the big challenges I had was writing a vision statement right from the beginning. And it was because as an entrepreneur, it's touchy feely. It was like, I don't want touchy feely. I want, dominate the world. How do I do that? And my coach actually drove me to the point where I couldn't write it. And she made me sit down and write my eulogy. And gosh, I sat down and wrote it. And I realized that nothing in that eulogy had anything to do with business, P&L statements, nothing. It had to do with relationships. It had to do with leaving the world better than I found it. And that kind of helped the clarity of writing the vision, because now I almost don't take it as serious. And I know that may sound bad, but I have fun at what I do. And I make sure if I'm doing something, I'm not enjoying it, I don't do it.
As we're building to join up dots on 1 month on, 1 month off, I've never had the ability to take mini vacations, but I think it was the Tim Ferriss 4-Hour Work Week. I remember reading that, and it was such an alien concept that people could actually escape from work because, hey, you have annual leave and you ask, can I have next Thursday off, please? And that's how you used it, like having sweets. And now we're at a point now with the show that it's doing so amazingly well that we're planning to go, right, 1 month, we're do all the work, and then we close off. We turn off the machines and just just operate, live a life, go off to Spain and just enjoy ourselves, and then come back and go hard for it for another month. And one of the things was doing this show. Now, I'm going to talk about your coach, your business mentor in a moment, but doing this show, I've had nearly 800 coaches. Every single person says something to me and I think, oh yeah, I should do that. Now, with yourself, did it all come together when you got your coach? Did you bumble along on your own before you realised actually that you needed somebody's guiding hand?
It's funny, when I read The E-Myth, and for anybody listening, if you haven't read that book, it's a really good place to start, really regardless of where you are in your entrepreneurial journey. But it was when I read that I got, and I had to read it probably 6 times to even start to understand it, because I was so deep in the weeds, I couldn't see anything outside of tomorrow. But as I read it and I got clarity, it helped me understand that I needed help. Like, I can't do this on my own. Why spend the effort and the energy to recreate the wheel? I would rather go find someone that can help me get to where I want to go, and someone who's been there in order to help me push along.
But there is an expense there, Justin, isn't it, that people are scared of? I know what you're saying is absolutely right. I've never actually had a one-to-one coach, but I've been very fortunate to be able to talk to quite high-level people and people on different parts of their journey. And it's really eased me along magically in so many ways. But at the very beginning, when people are bootstrapping it, even if I said to them, look, if you pay X amount of dollars for somebody, they can cut your learning curve by a half. Probably they still won't, because they think that they can go to YouTube, they can Google it, they can work through, and as you said at the beginning, they can outwork the issues.
Right. Well, and coaching is an investment. And yes, I was there, and I remember sitting down with my wife going, this is really a big investment. And actually, I didn't even use the word investment at the time. I said, this is really, really expensive. And really, I almost did it as my last little Hail Mary. Like, you know what? I'm going to throw the ball up and let's see if this works. And it did. And because again, it is an investment in you, yourself, your team, your business, your family. I mean, it is an investment for sure.
And how do you decide on the right coach? With all the people out there, and one of the problems with the online world is people show you what they want to show you. And it's not necessarily, the track history that's right for you as an individual. So how would you advise somebody out there who's listening to this conversation, they're building a business, they are struggling, to find the right coach for them?
I would say find someone that niches in whatever area you're wanting. So for me, being in the home service space, I was seeking someone in the home service space. But here's the thing, as far as YouTube, there's a lot of great information that you can get from online resources. But I think what most people miss about a business is yours. So it doesn't matter what the guy down the street's got going on. It doesn't matter what his pricing is. It doesn't matter your business is there to serve you. And people will chase you down a rabbit hole to go out of business. Being in the in-home service business, I hear it all the time. Well, Joe Bob down the road, he charges X amount of dollars an hour, and how can we charge this? And, just be clear that the business is yours. It's there to represent you and to serve you. Now, obviously, you can't price yourself out of the market and things like that, but be clear on why you're starting your business. It's not to be broke. It's not to work 150 hours a week. It's not to do, to never have vacation. That's not why you start a business. And if it is why you started a business, you should go work for somebody, because you're going to make more money and you're going to get more freedom. But that's really the big trick is that.
The price point at the beginning is scary time, isn't it, for everyone? You know, I remember looking back, it's laughable now, some of the products that I created right at the very beginning. Number one, I didn't ask anybody if they wanted the products. I just kind of thought, oh, I will create these and push them out to the world. And the first one I set up was about $500, and then it went to $400, and then it went down to about $47, and still no one was buying it. And I look back on it and I think, no, it wasn't the product, it was the marketing and the fact that actually I was devaluing that product. I should have pushed it out in the right way instead of actually thinking I just go cheaper and cheaper and cheaper. There's no value in it. Your business, how do you choose your price point? Is it just confidence now? Do you just pick a figure and not blink?
Anything we do pricing wise, we start with the end in mind. So in any of our businesses, we go, okay, well, here's the margin that we want. Here's what this is the allotment we have for marketing. This is the allotment for this, and then we work it backwards. Because we don't want to work it forwards, and then at the end of the day, you go, great, I got a 1% profit margin. And listen, for some businesses that works. Large businesses, if you're in a small business, you can't operate at a low margin. You have to have a margin that's a safety net. So to me, you have to work from the backwards. You have to work from the end and work it backwards in order to get your price.
So you don't consider the avatar, you don't consider the customer when you're planning your business. You are just working that what is profitable for you.
Correct. Now, for our avatar, we play that when we talk about marketing and how we're going to market to our avatar. As far as pricing goes, no, we do it based on what our end result is. Because regardless of what our avatar is, if we're not profitable doing something, there's no sense in us doing it.
And so,
but for marketing, you got to have your avatar for sure.
Right. So, are we saying to the listeners out there that you don't ever want to ponder at what somebody can afford? That's not your question. You need to create the right marketing, the right product, and put it out to the world, and then assess afterwards. You don't want to be going, oh, that person can't afford that, because you've got no idea what somebody will pay for.
Well, but so back to the avatar that we talked about. So if you have your avatar, is your avatar someone who can't afford whatever product or service you're selling or delivering?
Yeah, but how do you know this? This is one of the things I get this a lot, that people are saying, how do they choose their price right at the very beginning? Because they are trapped in would I pay for this? Or they haven't got a lot of money. That's why they're starting a business. And so they believe that everybody is around them. Classic thing. You surround yourself with 5 millionaires, you're going to think like a millionaire. You surround yourself with 5 hobos, you're going to think that nobody can afford anything. So how would you suggest to the listeners out there that they can actually break free from that? Nobody is going to afford this. I'll just go cheap.
Well, I can say this. The way we did our very first price structure was we did what most people do. We called our competition. We wrote down the numbers, and we weren't profitable. But at the time, we didn't have any expenses, and just keep that in mind. Is you got to have your expenses dialed down. But again, when we started, that's what we did. We called around competition, wrote down, oh, they're X amount of dollars an hour, they're X amount for this, and X amount for that. But no, the more mature we got as a business, the more we realized, well, hey, at the end of the day, we have to be profitable in order to be able to keep the doors open.
Well,
it's very expensive to run a business.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, it is. Well, it is. I'll talk about that afterwards. Here's some words from Oprah.
The way through the challenge is to get still and ask yourself, what is the next right move? Not think about, oh, I got all of this stuff. What is the next right move? And then from that space, make the next right move and the next right move. And not to be overwhelmed by it, because your life is bigger than that one moment. You're not defined by what somebody says is a failure for you, because failure is just there to point you in a different direction.
Great business advice, Justin.
Great. I mean, that ties right in. She's talking about vision, right?
Yeah.
You got to have the vision so that you know what the next move is supposed to be. And failure is just one of those things. If you own a business and you're not failing, you need to put more out there. Failure's just a part of it.
So are we right? That's an interesting point. It's taken me away from what I was going to think about, but I'm going to come back to that. I'm a professional podcaster. I can go back and forth. So are you saying with that, people have got to be more present. Is a personal brand then more important than a business one? When you say they've got to put themselves out there, is it the sort of the personality that they need to put out there, or do they need to invest more into the business? Explain your comment now.
Well, I mean, as far as I always say the cool stuff happens outside your comfort zone. No, I don't think. Well, I guess it depends on your business. For my businesses, my personal brand has never been bigger than the brand that we're driving the service for. But what I mean by that is there's times you have to try things in order to know if they're going to work or not, and you cannot let fear paralyze you from growth. So sometimes you got to put it out there, and if you fail, the biggest trick with failure is learn from it, because there's typically a win and loss in every failure. So figure out what the win is and figure out what the loss is and learn. So the next time you focus on the win and you don't do what you failed on.
But the issue with that, and I'm being devil's advocate here, Justin, I agree with literally everything you're saying, but the problem with that is that you don't see the failure instantly. For example, you might be spending a lot of money on marketing and you think, okay, I'll just leave it another day. I'll leave it another day. That is the issue, isn't it? It's very easy to say you do something and you assess the success or failure. Now, I have done so many things with Join Up Dots that I thought was a complete failure, but now 3 years down the line, they're suddenly coming back to me and I realised they weren't a failure. I just planted them and they took a while to grow. But at the time, I was thinking it was a complete waste of money.
That's a great point. Planting seeds. I think that's a great point. Yeah, and you don't know. I mean, okay, we live in an instant gratification world for sure, but no, sometimes it takes a minute to know if that's going to turn into a tree or if it's not. So no, I think that's a great point.
So are you in the process now of planting seeds, or are you at the point of a business where when a business gets to a certain point, it is almost instant gratification? You can scale it very easily because you've got the track history, you've got the knowledge, you've got the confidence. Are you planting seeds, or are you sort of going into no man's land of not really knowing if something's going to work or not?
No, we plant seeds. We spend time planting seeds. I mean, our goal is to be the best training and coaching in the blue collar space. That's not an easy feat. There's a lot of companies out there. So no, we spend our time planting. We want to grow our garden for sure.
And how does your wife get involved? Is she very much part of the business? Is she understanding of the entrepreneurial spirit?
Very supportive. She's always been very supportive. At the beginning, she would have been happy with me taking a job and, us being able to go do the things that, other people were able to go do at the time. Now, not so much. And it's interesting because she actually is a coach now too, because she got involved in the business and she had a coach and she's grown, and yeah, she does coaching with the business now as well.
It's funny with wives, and this is going to be a sweeping statement, but more often than not, the people that I seem to speak to say, the wife supports me. She understands me. She knows that I want it, but she doesn't understand why. She doesn't understand what. And I suppose it will go sort of both ways with what either sort of sexes you're talking about. That the party understands the individual, but not the motive behind it. It's very difficult, isn't it, when one person is very entrepreneurial and knows they want something big in their life, and the other one's saying, well, we're all right at the moment. We're happy. We have a holiday each year, and we've got a nice house, and we've got everything. It's an obstacle that's quite difficult to push through for somebody, because it's very difficult to explain it to the other person.
That's a fact. And my wife actually is an accountant. I mean, she doesn't do accounting work anymore, but so her background was, accounting is a very rigid, field. It's, everything's black and white, numbers and, decimals and things like that. And the entrepreneurial world is not. So it did take some, it took her really having faith in me and what my vision was, and which eventually became our vision, to make our life what it is now.
And if it had been going, as we say in the United Kingdom, pear-shaped, it was going wrong, would she have supported you, or would she have just pulled it and said, no, you're not doing that. You're risking everything?
No, she's never. I mean, even when we were not in the best of times, she was always supportive, and it was one of those things where you go, you know what? If it all goes away tomorrow, we can rebuild. So
I
no,
love
she's
that.
always been very supportive in that way.
There's a real confidence, isn't there, once you do it once? And I suppose you see that multiple times. Is it 3.8 times that a millionaire will crash and burn before they finally make it? But every step of the way, you're building confidence and you're seeing what things work and what things don't. Is it the case that it is just confidence? You've seen it in operation, so you're not actually, recreating the wheel. Is that why you say that you can actually make it again?
I think a lot of it has to do with education. So the more I'm involved with businesses, the more I understand the nuances of how they work, the more I know how to measure them, and it becomes fun. So it becomes almost a game, right? Business and life can be fun, and it can be a game, and it can be enjoyable. But you can't take it too seriously. But you have to know what you're looking at when you're doing it.
And what do you mean you can't
my
take
big
it too
thing has
seriously?
been knowing what to look for, knowing what to scale on.
Right, okay. But what do you mean you can't take it too seriously? Because this is a passion piece for you. And, you're putting sweat and tears into this. So what do you mean about you can't take it too seriously?
Well, I mean, you have to have fun. And if you're taking it too serious, you're not having fun. And if you're not having fun, you're not enjoying what you're doing.
Is that true? I don't know if that's true. I would play, for example, baseball. I never played baseball in my life. But when I was playing it, I don't think I would enjoy it. I would really want to win, and I'd be so focused on it. We have a thing over here, I'm sure Americans got it, called Connect 4, when you put the red things in, the blue dots in. Do you have that?
Absolutely, yeah.
Now, I play my daughter on that, and she's 12, and ever since she was little, we play that, and I always wanted to beat her, and my wife used to say, oh, just let her win. I go, no, when she wins, she will have won by merit, and I'd be really focused. And then she beat me one day, and I thought, hang on, how's that happen? And then she beat me again. I thought, well, I've got to raise my game. So now I'm playing online, and they have this Hard Harry and Expert Emily, and these are like Yoda computers. I don't know how they're doing it, and you've got to play like 6 steps ahead. But I am so focused on this, I don't think I enjoy it at all. I just want to win.
I'm a very competitive person. I'm not that competitive. I want to enjoy what I'm doing, even if I'm playing sports or whatever I'm doing. I want to have a good time doing it. And when you have a good time doing it, others around you, they're drawn to enjoyment. Everybody wants to like what they're doing.
Well,
everybody
I think that
doesn't like what they're doing, but they do want to be drawn toward it.
Yeah, and I think that is true. And I think that says a lot of how marketing is going nowadays. I see a subtle move to the kind of market by fascinating, show people that you're really enjoying it and loving it, and customers want a piece of that. And it's a totally different way of operating than maybe 2 or 3 years ago.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah.
So let's play some more words then, sir, and then we're going to delve back finally into the big moment in your life where things really went your way. Here's Steve Jobs.
Of course, it was impossible to connect the dots looking forward when I was in college, but it was very, very clear looking backwards 10 years later. Again, you can't connect the dots looking forward. You can only connect them looking backwards. So you have to trust that the dots will somehow connect in your future. You have to trust in something, your gut, destiny, life, karma, whatever. Because believing that the dots will connect down the road will give you the confidence to follow your heart, even when it leads you off the well-worn path. And that will make all the difference.
So do those words make all the difference to you, Justin, when you listen to them?
Yeah, Steve Jobs, what an incredible human being.
It was a bit of a pig, though, at times.
I read his book, and it was a very interesting book about he rubbed people a lot of times the wrong way, but a lot of brilliant people I think do that just because they're so focused on their goal and their vision that nothing else really matters at times.
And is that because we've been talking about getting a vision, but we've also been talking about enjoying yourself while you're creating that. Now, with Steve Jobs building Apple, there seemed to be times that he loved it, and there's times that he could have almost smashed it up because it was too big for where he was at that self-development stage. Have you had that time when you've looked at your business and actually it's almost like a monster running away with you? You haven't actually developed yourself to the point that you can control what you're building?
Yes, and it was about probably 8 years. Well, it really started when I started looking for a coach. We had we had several offices. We had over 100 employees, and I was going, hey, I can't do this. Is way beyond my skill, my ability. Because with most technicians, when we create a business, it's all about OJT and on the job training. So a lot of times, we don't have leadership schools. We don't have school. There's some seminars, but there's not. You go to college or you go to high school. There's not a lot of these type of personal development. So you have to take it on yourself, and you have to read books, and you have to reach out to people that can help push you to that next level. So yes, it's easy to get into that place, and I was 100% in that place of insecurity of whether I was even the right guy for the job.
It's the imposter syndrome, isn't it? It sits on all of us.
It is.
And it's so difficult to overcome. So when you listen to those words that Steve Jobs talk about, and obviously we've been jumping back and forth on the Join Up Dots timeline, when did it all come together? We always call it your big dot story, your big dot moment, when you look back on it and you think to yourself, and you've already alluded a couple of times to the coach, but maybe there was a different time in your life when you thought, I think I've got this now. I think I know what needs to be done, what I'm heading for. Let's make it happen.
The first time I even really understood what a P&L sheet was and a balance sheet and a cash on hand report was a number of years into my business, which saying that out loud, for most business owners, they go, really? But yeah, we were way too big to not have a good grasp and handle on even what that type of stuff meant. And for me, when I finally sat down and I understood it, and I understood how to make different shifts and pivots in order to affect that, I felt like that's when I started to get confident in my ability to manage and run and lead the business.
And do you run it as an expert now, or do you still wake up and go, oh, scary time, I've got to pretend that I know everything, but actually deep down is a bit of a blag?
Well, the interesting thing for my service business is I run it like a coach. So I've got people that are, quite frankly, smarter than I am running them, and I coach with them. So I really run my business from the coach's lens and less a business owner lens, because it's easier for me to see that elevated view than it is when someone's in the day-to-day.
So when you're coaching them, do you think to yourself sometimes, oh, actually, I know I'm saying this, but I'm not actually doing it myself. I should be doing this.
Well, no, there's no perfect. I'm not perfect at what I do. I work very hard. I practice. And there's times I go, I should take my own advice. I was telling somebody the other day, I was sitting down doing a coaching call, and we were talking about things you should do. And I look down and I go, I'm in my running shorts. I'm in my running shoes. I know I should have run this morning, and I didn't. So it's definitely not perfection for sure, but it is interesting to be able to run the businesses from a coach's perspective, just because I get to ask good questions.
I think it'd be very
easy for us not to take it personal.
Yeah, I think most of us need to separate ourselves from the business and look in at it with different eyes, but we don't, do we? We just sort of plow through. And I think that would be one of the biggest advices, and that's what I'm working towards, as I say, taking that month off so I can walk away and just look at it with fresh eyes and enjoyment and see what we're creating, and then come back with new ideas. Because I think all the best ideas come when you're not in your business anyway, wouldn't you say?
100%. Yeah. Well, and because you're not in the weeds, and when you're in the weeds and you're in the doing it mode, you're missing the elevated view. And when you get to take that step back, it's real easy to look at it and go, well, here's 4 quick problems that we can solve that'll make the world of difference. So yes, getting away from your business a lot of times is one of the best things you can do for your business.
Well, just before we bring the show to an end and we send you back in time on the Sermon on the Mic, what is in your radar, your focus going forward? You're in your RV, you're driving around. It seems like you've nailed it, but we can sense that there's bigger things in your sort of vicinity. What are you aiming for?
I mentioned it earlier. I mean, our objective right now with the Blue Collar Success Group is to simply make it the best coaching, training, and development company for the blue collar space. I mean, that is our goal. That is our mission. And that's what we're striving for.
And how do you know it's the best then, Justin?
To be able to make an impact on our members, right? That's how we know it's the best, is that we can meet them where they are and give them the tools they need to be better, right? To be more successful, to grow their business. I mean, obviously with coaching, it's a two-way street. You can give someone the tools, they still have to utilize it. But it's offering them the tools and meeting them where they are.
And the key thing, I suppose, to all listeners is actually it doesn't matter if yours is the best or not. The intention is more important than the output. You know, it doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be brilliant. Just the fact that you're aiming to be the best is more often than not good enough.
Right.
Oh, I sound knowledgeable, Justin, don't I? I sound like I know what I'm talking about. I don't know what's come over me. I don't know what's come over me. Well, I know what's going to happen now. This is one thing that I am in control of, and this is the part of the show that we call the Sermon on the Mic, when I send you back in time to have a one-on-one with your younger self. And if you could go back in time and speak to the young Justin, what age would you choose and what advice would you give? Well, we're going to find out because I'm going to play the theme, and when it fades, you're up. This is the Sermon on the Mic.
Here we go with the best bit of the show, the Sermon on the Mic, the Sermon on the Mic.
Caught myself dancing there a little bit. You know, I would go back to probably when I was 23, which is really when I was starting my first service business. And I would probably I would absolutely tell myself, you know what, opportunities are everywhere. And really you've got to measure them and make sure that you're following what it is that you want to do, right? So stay true. And and really, as you're looking at opportunities, it's a hell yes or it's a no, and that's really the way you need to gauge them. The other thing I would tell myself is family. Family is the most important above all else. The whole world may fall apart when it comes to your business. At the end of the day, your family is still going to be there for you. So focus on that and make sure that you give them the priority and the attention that they want, need, and desire.
Great advice. Justin, what's the number one best way that our audience who've been listening today can connect with you?
You can email me or hit me on Facebook. One of the two.
We will have all the links on the show notes and make it as easy as possible for everyone. Justin, thank you so much for spending time with us today, joining up those dots. And please come back again when you've got more dots to join up, because I do believe that by joining up the dots and connecting our past is the best way to build our futures. Justin, thank you so much.
Thank you so much, David. It's been great to be here.
I love that kind of guest. He's building his businesses, but he's balancing it with his life and he's having experiences. And we all throw excuses out about why we can't do stuff. And I'm in the same. I've done so much and I've created so much, but there's still times when I go, oh, it's not possible. The kids are at school and this isn't, and you can just push past every obstacle if you want it. I think Justin is really onto some great stuff, and one of these days, sir, I will meet you in a bar and we'll have a drink together. Thank you so much for everybody who has listened to this episode of the show. Thank you so much for the continued push. We're seeing the show going up and up and up, and we're tackling some of the big boys, which is what it's all about. Incremental steps to greatness. Thank you so much, and I will see you again soon. Cheers. Bye-bye.
David doesn't want you to become a faded version of the brilliant self you were once to become. So he's put together an amazing guide for you called the 8 Pieces of Advice that every successful entrepreneur practices, including the 2 that changed his life. Head over to joinupdots.com to download this amazing guide for free, and we'll see you tomorrow on Join Up Dots.